are live. We are going to talk about the stimulus package and what that actually means. Hello, thank you for joining me. We are going to wait for a few people to come in because I have a lot to talk about. This is Kelly L with Live Into Life, and we are going to talk about the stimulus package today and what that means and how that affects you and what benefits you can get from it. And I have spent the entire day today going through 880 pages. 880 pages of a stimulus bill. Now, I'm not sure whether any of you have tried to read a bill before or are familiar with how they work, but basically it is a lot of legalese, there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of exceptions to the rules, and it was 880 pages. So my brain's a little bit fried. But I wanted to make sure that I understood exactly what this bill entailed, because there's a lot of news out there right now about what is included in this bill, what does it mean for individuals, and a lot of people get confused and are getting confused because the news will only focus on certain things, but it won't necessarily go through every single thing that's in that package. And also, you know, what you have to do in order to get the most benefits out of this package. So I'm going to discuss the entire bill. I'm going to go through small business items. I'm going to go through personal items. I'm going to go through some of the stimulus that's been offered to large corporations. And I hope that by the end of this, it's going to help you with your small business. It's going to help you with the benefits that you're going to be able to receive. And it's going to help you truly understand what you're going to get, how to get them, when you're going to get them. And that's my goal today. So as I said, my name's Kelly L. I'm with Live Into Life. And I am an attorney, and I'm also a wealth and lifestyle coach. And so really, this whole thing is really up my alley. I know what I'm talking about. I'm used to reading these kind of laws. I'm used to reading the rules and the exceptions. Okay, so let's get into it. I will be looking at my computer because I have a lot of notes, so I will be going through it. And if you don't know already, you can leave comments in the comment section on live. You can ask me questions, and what we'll do is we'll go through one section of the bill, and then I'll see if there are any questions in regard to that specific bill or that specific portion, that specific title. I'll answer as many of those questions as I can, and then we'll go on to the next portion. A stimulus is something that stimulates the economy. The reason that this came about, the reason that a stimulus was even put into play, and this is the third stimulus that we're discussing today, it was so that our economy doesn't completely crash or crash even more than what it has already, and so that when we get out of this coronavirus craziness, we can actually all go back to work. The economy will increase, hopefully even more dramatically than it decreased. And so that's why the government decided that they have to put these stimulus packages into effect. Now, what does it actually mean? Any kind of benefit that is being provided to small businesses or individuals is actually a tax benefit, okay? It's a tax credit. That's what it is. So even if you get a small business loan or you receive a check from the government, it's like a tax credit that ordinarily you would apply for when you file your taxes, okay? But the tax credits, the way that they're going to work during this stimulus, the way they're working is the government is actually giving you an advance on that tax credit. So let's say that you have a child, and at the end of the year when you file your taxes, you're going to claim that child as your dependent. And the government is going to give you a certain amount of money back for that child. Or let's say that you own a small business and when you file your taxes, you list mileage or you list employment expenses, buying paper or paying employees. Those are all things that at the end of the year will become a tax credit, okay? So everything in this stimulus bill, and the two preceding stimulus bills are all tax credits. The difference here is that they are going to be giving you, the government will be giving you an advance on that tax credit. So instead of waiting until you file your 2019 taxes, you'll actually get the credit today, well, within the next couple of weeks, all right? So let's talk about this CARES Act. The CARES Act, as it is called, C-A-R-E-S, is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, okay? It's CARES for short. And in the act, and the bill number if you're interested, because you can actually go to the Senate and read that 880 pages if you choose to, which I don't suggest because it's annoying. The bill number is actually HR 748, okay? And I'm gonna there'll be a link for that. I'm gonna ask someone to post that link in the comment section. So if you want to go read that bill, you can. But I've kind of broken this down for you, and I've taken the information directly from the bill and not from the news and not from blogs, okay? I'm an attorney, I read the bill. So there are 5 titles in this bill. Titles meaning sections. And the first title, I'm gonna go through really 2 major ones, and then I'm going to address a couple of points in one of the other titles. 2 of the titles, one is actually specifically made for healthcare, and I'm not going to go through all of the healthcare items. I'm really focusing on the finances, okay? So Title 1 is called Assistance for Small, it's Assistance for Small Business, and it's actually called Keeping American Workers Paid and Employed Act. like that's the name of it. Keeping American Workers Paid and Employed Act, okay? And what does that do in essence? It's trying to give some form of assistance to small businesses so that they can keep their employees employed during this period. Even if work has slowed down, even if there's not as much income obviously coming into that business, it gives small businesses some form of relief so that they can keep employees employed and they can keep their businesses running as best as possible. So one of the big programs in that act is called the Paycheck Protection Program. The Paycheck Protection Program, okay? And the government has assigned $349 billion in order to fulfill that program. So what does that mean? I'm gonna go through my notes. So basically, there are 2 types of loans that a small business can apply for, okay? There is a 7A loan, and this is important for you to know, okay? There's a 7A loan, and then there's a 7-2B loan. There are 2 different types of loans, okay? In order to qualify for either one of these loans, your business has to employ less than 500 employees or operate as a sole proprietorship. What does that mean? If you just work for yourself, if you are a landscaper and you don't employ anybody, or if you are a hairdresser and you don't necessarily employ anybody, you're a sole proprietorship. And so it actually also applies to you. That is very unusual because usually it would be a business, these types of loans would simply apply to businesses that have employees. But here, you qualify for these loans if, as I stated, you employ less than 500 employees, you are a sole proprietorship, or you operate as an independent contractor. So let's say that you're a trainer, okay? And you don't necessarily have a corporation, but you operate as an independent contractor. So at the end of the year, you file taxes based on your income, but they are coming from you being self-employed. So this is a huge thing too, that you can actually qualify for these loans, whereas usually with a small business loan, you wouldn't qualify. In order to qualify for a 7A loan, which is the bigger loan, it's the one where you probably get the most amount of money, you have to submit some certain documentation. So you'll have to submit payroll taxes to prove that you're paying employees, or, by the way, if you're paying independent contractors, you can submit that information too. Then it says forms 1099s that you'd have to submit, and you have to submit income and expenses, okay? If you submit those documents, then you should be able to qualify for a loan. So how much can you get? How much can you get through a 7A loan? All right, so the maximum loan you can get, now here's the funny thing, it says shall be the lesser of. All right, so here's the thing, it shall be the lesser of $10 million. Like, that's the number. I don't know, I'd like $10 million, but it should be the lesser of $10 million, or it is calculated like this. Basically, you multiply the average payroll costs incurred for a 12-week period from February 15th, 2019 to June 15th, 2019, or from March 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2019. So you average your payroll cost for that period, okay? And then you times it by 2.5. And the amounts that you can also ask for are your rent costs for your offices or for your business, your utility payments, any loans that you currently have to pay, any interest on those loans, and then your employees' salaries. And by the way, that includes you. That includes your salary. So let's say that you make $5,000 a month, you can actually get a loan to pay yourself, which is freaking awesome, okay? I obviously work for myself, and I want to pay myself a salary because I have my bills to pay as well. And so you can actually get a loan to be able to pay yourself your own salary. Now, you can't, if you're making $5,000, you can't suddenly start making $15,000, right? This is not about like some windfall. It's about keeping you whole, like making sure that you're able to function during this time period, okay? And also at one point, they're going to look at the payroll costs. The government will look at the payroll costs and expenses as of February, as I said, February of 2019. Now, if you weren't in business in 2019, but you were in business as of January 1st, 2020, they're going to look at January 1st, 2020 to February 29th, 2020, and they're going to take that average, okay? So when you're thinking about how much can I get from these loans, think about the average payroll cost for a 12-week period, calculate that, and then times that by 2.5, okay? And that's the amount of money that you'll be able to get, okay? Now, the specific requirements as to what you can use those loans for. You can use those loans to cover payroll costs, costs related to healthcare, salaries, and commissions. So if you pay yourself a commission, or if your employees receive commission, those commissions can also be paid through these loans. It can also be used to pay payments of mortgage interest or mortgage on your business property, and it can be used to pay rent, utilities, and then, as I said, and other debt. Now, in order for you to, so you're gonna hear this term impacted borrower, okay? You're gonna hear it a lot, like impacted borrower. What does that mean? It means literally that you've been impacted by COVID-19. Like, that's it. Like, you're either sick, or you've been sick, or someone in your family's sick, or you're taking care of someone who's sick, or you have to take care of your children because your children can't go to school, or you're not able to go to your job because your office is closed down. So pretty much like every American is impacted by COVID-19, okay? So when you hear the term impacted borrower, that just means you. Like, everyone's been impacted. That means you. So the crazy thing with this is that all of these qualifications that you used to have for small business loans, a lot of them are waived, and it's nuts. And it's I know that we're in this really hard time right now, but there are so many opportunities, you know? There are so many opportunities for us to actually grow from this and then get out of this even stronger. And so that's why I wanted to do this, to let you all know exactly what's happening. So let me tell you about the great things with this loan. Like I find this like super sexy. Okay, so let me tell you about the great things. There's no fee for the loan. Like, there's no fee, okay? So usually when you get a loan, you have to pay $5,000, $10,000, or a percentage of the money that you're loaning, but you don't have to, pay, with this one, you don't have to pay a fee, okay? There is an interest rate, and the interest has to be kept under 4%. Now, 4% is nothing for a small business loan. Like, that's nothing. It's a really good rate. So there will be an interest. The other great thing is that there is no personal guarantee requirement. So you know what that means? That means is if God forbid, your business ends up closing, okay? You are not now personally responsible for this loan. Okay? You're not personally responsible for it, which is insane, because every other loan that you would take out, you would, because you're a small business or you're an independent contractor. I mean, like, you're an independent contractor. Like, there's Caliel and Caliel, but Caliel can loan it, but this Caliel doesn't have to pay it back. Like, that's how crazy this is. Or there's no personal guarantee, right? So you're not personally on the hook for the loan, all right? Also, there's no collateral needed. So you don't need to support this loan by giving, like anything down. Like, you don't have to put your house, up as collateral so that you pay back this loan. You also cannot be turned down for these loans because you've been previously turned down for business loans in the past. So if you've been struggling anyway and you've been turned down for a loan, well, hey, that specifically in the bill, in the law, it says you cannot be turned down because you've been turned down before, okay? You will not make payments. You will not make payments on this loan for 6 months. 6 months, no payments, okay? And you can actually also defer that for an additional 6 months. So for a year, you wouldn't pay on this loan, all right? And the loans they'll usually be about a 10-year loan. So you'll have 10 years to pay it back. Now, and also there's no prepayment penalty, which means that if you decide to pay it off sooner, you can, and they won't give you a prepayment penalty, meaning that basically, like, in a lot of mortgages, there are prepayment penalties. So if you pay off your mortgage early, you have to pay a fee, because the person who loaned you that money wants to be able to gain all of that interest, okay? Well, here, there's no prepayment penalty. I mean, this is like honestly, like, this blows my mind as like a finance coach, because I'm like, this is like so much money and so many great benefits, right? But can I tell you what's even better? Like, even better? there is loan forgiveness. Like, does anyone know like what loan forgiveness means? Like, can you tell me in simple terms like what loan forgiveness means? There is loan forgiveness on this loan automatically. Like automatically. So the rule is this: if you take out this loan and you do not lay off any employees, you do not try and like furlough your rent or your mortgage, you just keep your business exactly as it is. You don't increase, any money given out to, the owners or any just keep it exactly as it is. In 8 weeks from the time that you get the loan, the government, you can send in an application to the lender that gives it to you, okay? And you will not have to pay that part of the loan back. Like it's free money. Do you understand? Like it's free money. People, are you with me? So basically, anybody who is an independent contractor, right? And anybody who has a sole proprietorship and anybody who has a small business can get one of these loans and use the money to pay themselves salary and to pay their employees salary and to continue paying potentially a mortgage on your business. And you get 8 weeks of this for free. Like, it's insanity, all right? So, the only way that you will not qualify for this, okay? The only way you will not qualify for this loan forgiveness is as I said, if you change the way that your business is operating, okay? You still have to pay your employees. You can't get the loan and then like lay off your employees. It's not good, okay? So that is the first type of loan, that is a 7A loan. And the reason it's different from the 7.2B loan, okay, is that the 7A loan requires taxes, requires all of this documentation that you would usually have to give if you were going to get a small business loan, okay? So the 7.2B loan is different. It is called, the 7B2 loan is different, all right? This is called an emergency EIDL grant, okay? What does this mean? This means that you can get a loan up to $200,000, okay? And again, you're covered if you're a business with less than 500 employees, an individual who operates a sole proprietorship with or without employees, or as an independent contractor. The thing that you have to provide, okay? This is crazy, okay? The thing that you have to provide is self-verification that you own the company. Like, that's it. You have to basically have an affidavit that says, I own this company and I am having problems because of COVID-19 and I need some money. And you get the loan. Like, what? What? Oh, let me tell you something even more fun, okay? So, the only thing that this is based upon is your credit score, okay? That's it. It's based on your credit score. No tax returns, no documentation, nothing. And this is the most fun, okay? You can ask for an advance. So, from the time that you file your application for this 7.2B loan, you can ask for an advance, okay? And that advance is up to $10,000. $10,000. And you can ask for it within 3 days of you submitting your application. And guess what? You don't have to pay the $10,000 back. Like, what? What? I don't know what's happening right now. I think our government is freaking amazing right now. And so you can literally get $10,000, you don't have to pay it back. Now, because this loan is capped at $200,000, if you want to then get more money, this type of loan, 7B, I keep messing it up, 7B2, okay? It would then move into a 7A loan, so you can get more money. The reason you don't have to pay it back is because the government is trying to keep people employed. And I'm going to get into it because they've really also ramped up unemployment. So the reason that you don't have to pay it back is because they would prefer people to remain employed versus going for unemployment. And those unemployment benefits have increased as well, you see? So that's why they'll give you this and you don't have to pay it back. So at a minimum, I swear, if you have a small business, are a sole proprietor, work on a 1099, if you don't apply for this freaking loan, I don't know what's wrong with you, okay? 7B2, like you just like, So, and again, this money can be used to pay payroll, health benefits, also, by the way, meeting increased costs in like a supply chain. So for example, if you have to buy, I don't know, lashes or hair extensions or, you know, whatever you need to buy and those prices have increased, you can use this loan to buy those things, all right? I'm not quite sure, and I'll say this, I'm not quite sure how the government is going to be able to monitor exactly where you spend the money, but one of the ways I'm presuming is obviously they're going to check to make sure that you have the same amount of employees and you're still paying your rent or your mortgage associated with your business. But other than that, you know, I don't really know how they're gonna check that. Okay, let's see. Oh, another thing. If you currently have a loan right now, a small business loan, the government the government is going to pay the principal, the interest, and the fees for 6 months from the time of your next payment. And by the way, this is happening automatically. Now, you can call your loan company and say, hey, Wells Fargo, I have this small business loan and I don't want, I mean, what is the relief that you're offering, okay? You can call that company and they will put you on a furlough, but it's basically happening automatically. It is happening automatically. And you may be sitting there going, okay, how is this possible? Like, how is this possible? Why would a bank who's given me a loan agree to not have me make that payment for 6 months, right? And then I never have to pay it back. Like, this is not a situation where you're delaying a loan and then 6 months from now you have to pay more money on the loan, okay? Like, it's not like you're gonna have now 6 months worth of payments that you have to do. No, the government is gonna pay for that 6 months. The reason is because they are trying to boost the economy and they are trying to keep people employed. That's why this is happening. I know it sounds too good to be true, but that's why this is happening, okay? All right. So that is basically what is happening for small businesses. One of the other things that I do want to mention is employment tax. So the government has stated that if you have employees, not independent contractors, but if you have employees and you're paying the employment tax, which is 7%, which is the combination of your employee portion of the tax and your portion of the tax, you don't have to pay your 3.5% right now. It's not really like that huge of a deal, and you will have to pay it in the future, but it's deferred until the end of the year. So this is not a situation where you have free money, it's not a situation where you have free money. It's a situation where you're just not paying that tax until the end of the year. Okay. So, and you will not qualify for that if you have loan forgiveness. So there's some exceptions to these rules. So basically, if you apply for a loan and you get loan forgiveness, meaning you get free money, right? Then you can't avail yourself of some of these other things in the the bill. Okay. All right. So that is as it relates to small businesses. So does anyone have any questions as it relates to what I just spoke about in relation to small business? I see Olivia is applying for loans better than filing for unemployment. I'm going to address unemployment in a minute. But I think that it makes sense to actually potentially do both. It depends on how many corporations that you have. So I'll address that in a minute. Does anyone have? Okay, when can we apply for one of the two loans? So basically, the Senate approved this bill yesterday. Last night at midnight, I was actually lying there watching it. I'm such a dork. And they approved it yesterday. So the president now has to sign the bill. And I was expecting, and I'm still expecting, that bill to be signed today. I'm not sure why it hasn't, and I haven't seen the news in the past 2 hours, so maybe he has approved it. But the president has to sign it, and then there has to be a system put in place for these loans. So the government is anticipating that a system will be in place for these loans by April 6th, okay? Which is like 10 days away, all right? Yeah, the president hasn't signed it yet. Now, here's the thing. If the president doesn't sign it within the next 10 days, which I highly doubt is going to happen because it's Trump, right? But if he doesn't sign it within the next 10 days, then it automatically becomes law. All right, so if he doesn't do anything, then more than likely you're going to be able to apply for these loans within the next 25 days. All right, and to be clear, although there is a lot of money out there, right, $364 billion for these small business loans, you need to be, first in line. There's a lot of people who's going to be coming after this money, so you need to be prepared. And obviously, as soon as I find out that the loans are now effective, I'll do another live video and I'll let you'll know exactly what needs to happen. Does this apply to Uber and Lyft employees that have been left without work? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. How amazing is that? See, there's never actually been a situation where someone like Lyft or Uber, or a Lyft or Uber driver, or an independent contractor could apply for a business loan. Like, this is a business loan to pay yourself and maybe make your car payment because you're using that car for Lyft or Uber. So yes, it does. It definitely applies to independent contractors, okay? Let me scroll down right here real quick. Let's see. I'm not sure exactly where the applications are going to need to be sent to right now, but the bill just say that there's going to be a lot of private institutions that are going to be able to provide these loans. I envision you can probably get these loans through your banks. I think that's probably what's going to happen, okay? The next topic is Title II. Okay? And Title II is called Assistance for American Workers, Families, and Businesses Act. All right? This is where we're going to talk about unemployment, we're going to talk about rebates, we're going to talk about the things that affect individual people. Okay, so unemployment used to be simply for people who were an employee in a company and then they were laid off. Okay? Now, I want to tell you the definition in the bill, okay? The definition in the bill and who are covered to seek to receive unemployment. So covered persons. You have to be able to work and you can't otherwise qualify for aid. It's very broad, but basically you have to be able to work, okay? You must provide a self-certification, which is basically a paragraph, a letter, that says, is otherwise able to work and available for work, except the individual is unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable or unavailable to work because of COVID-19, okay? That's the requirement. That's it. That's the requirement. Now, as I stated before, you have to be an impacted person, or you have to be, what's it called? Let me see. I forget the term now. You have to be impacted basically by COVID-19, okay? What does that mean? I'll go through it again. You have been sick, your family member's been sick, someone you're taking care of is sick, you are taking care of kids that can't go to school, you can't go to work because your business is closed, and basically every other possible thing that you can think about and ways that COVID-19 has actually affected you, okay? Everyone is, there you go, thanks Jessica, impacted borrower, okay? I think. So, everyone is an impacted borrower. All right, so, the other thing that you have to attest to is that you are self-employed, you're seeking part-time employment, and you may not have a sufficient work history. Now, this is a requirement that's always been in the unemployment statutes, but the government has said you don't have to seek work, you don't have to do anything. You're entitled to unemployment if you don't have a job. You're also entitled to unemployment if you're an independent contractor, if you work for Lyft, if you work for Uber, if you're a hairdresser, a trainer, anyone that works individually for themselves, you are entitled to unemployment, okay? The only people that are not entitled to unemployment are people who can work, who can telework with pay. So if you can work from home and you're just choosing not to work from home, then you're not going to be covered by unemployment. And if that is you and if that's your situation and you feel like you're not getting the same amount of pay that you were getting previously, then honestly, I would ask your employer to lay you off. I would. I mean, if they're not going to apply for a loan, then I would ask your employer to lay you off. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you're about to make some money. You're about to make some money. You should have heard this, the debate in the Senate last night. I'm not sure whether you watched it, but oh my Lord, it was crazy. People were going crazy because they're like, it's not fair to give Americans more money than they would already make. So like, let's say you were making $10 an hour, you were employed for $10 an hour, and now you claim you get unemployment, you actually make $22 an hour on unemployment, right? Like, isn't that crazy? Like, super, super nuts, right? So, the coverage period, let's talk about the coverage period. All right. This coverage, meaning from what time to what time can you get unemployment, okay? You can get unemployment from January 27th, 2020 through to December 31st, 2020 for a total of 39 weeks. Now that's insane. Like usually unemployment is like 12 weeks. 39 weeks, okay? Now, and because the date is from January 27th, they are retroactively applying this. So if you've been out of work for 3 weeks and you're like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? I can't pay for my groceries, I can't, like what am I gonna do? They are saying no. As of January 27th, 2020, if you were out of work, you get to get unemployment, okay? And usually there is a 7-day waiting period. So when you apply for, I live in Florida, so when you apply in Florida, there is a 7-day waiting period, okay? The 7-day waiting period has been waived. So the minute you file for unemployment and the minute the government can cut those checks out to you is the minute it happens basically immediately. You file the application, they process the application, you certify these things, and you get unemployment like that. And you can get it retroactive. So make sure that if you do choose to file for unemployment, you don't pick the day that you file the application. You pick the day that you were out of work, okay? Back date, you pick the day that you were out of work, all right? So let me tell you, another super duper duper sexy thing about unemployment and what has just happened, which is crazy. Okay, so every state has different kind of requirements for unemployment. There's different amounts that get paid in different states, okay? So I'm gonna talk about Florida, and if you don't know what your state requirements are or amounts are with unemployment, if you just go onto your state legislature's website, it will tell you, okay? So in Florida, they calculate unemployment benefits by looking at your prior year's income and then, or the past like 4 quarters from the time that you file the application, and then they divide that by 26, okay? That's how they calculate it. And in Florida, it's capped at $275 per week, which is like nothing, right? $275 a week. So that would be $1,100 per month. Like, what on earth? Like, if you were making, I mean, I don't know, like, what's $1,100 per month gonna get you? You know, if you were making way more than that. So simply because you were making maybe $500 a week or $1,000 a week prior to becoming unemployed doesn't mean that you get that amount of money basically until now, okay? So this is what happened. They added onto unemployment compensation. It's something called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. That's what it's called. Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. What does that mean? That means you get the $275 a week plus $600 extra a week. I'll wait. So you go from making, $1,100 a month to $3,500 a month. $3,500 a month. And you can get that for a maximum of 39 weeks. And can I tell you something else? I'm going to tell you something else, okay? This is crazy. Independent contractors, Lyft drivers, Uber drivers, anybody can get unemployment. People who, and then like, let's say that you work in a restaurant or you get a salary, but you also make tips. Your tips are also included in the amount that you write down, that you calculate for unemployment, okay? So, but either way, it's capped at $275 per week. So that means you're making $3,500 a month. And how do you do this? You simply apply for unemployment benefits, the same way you would usually apply for unemployment benefits. You go online, you go onto your state's website for unemployment, and you apply for it. That's it. And you'll make $3,500 a month from unemployment, okay? Now, as an employer, I'm trying to make the decision, I'm still trying to make the decision as to whether to take out the loans that I believe are insane and so beneficial for employers and keep my business running the way it needs to, or honestly, depending on how long this continues, close down my firm for a little bit and temporarily lay off my employees. If I get the loan, I can't do that, all right? If I get the loan, I can't lay off the employees. Now, but if I don't get the loan and I lay my employees off, then they can make this amount of money every month, okay? This is the back and forth that a business owner needs to go through and needs to think about, when it comes to their business. All right, let's see. Any questions about unemployment? I know there was a question previously. Is it better to take out a loan, or is it better to file for unemployment? I believe it's better to take out a loan. The reason I do is because you're still going to be paying yourself the salary that you were making previously if you get this loan and you have loan forbearance. And you have that money that's coming in to help you pay mortgages or rent or what have you. So if I'm making the decision more than likely to take out the loan, continue running my office, and continue paying myself the salary that I was receiving and the commissions or bonuses that I was used to, and then take that loan forbearance so that money's free. That's what I'm choosing to do. Any other questions regarding unemployment? Let's see. If your employer, says to you, go home, they'll pay you, and your employer is struggling, it may be worth having a conversation and saying, would you prefer for me to file for unemployment? Because I don't mind doing that. And you can file for unemployment temporarily, you see? You don't have to claim for 39 weeks, and your employer can say to you, once business picks up, I'll hire you back, okay? That's perfectly fine. As a business owner, you can file for unemployment. I would suggest that instead you take out a loan to pay your salary, because that loan is forbeared, meaning you do not have to pay back the first 8 weeks. If you choose after that to lay yourself off and lay off your employees, then so be it. But provided that you keep those employees in place for 8 weeks, you pay them, and then that loan you don't have to repay to the government. If you start working later in April, can you claim unemployment? You can claim unemployment on this new scheme of unemployment under the federal pandemic unemployment compensation anytime from January 27th, 2020 through December 31st of 2020 for a maximum of 39 weeks. So if you recently got laid off, you can claim unemployment. Yeah, you can apply, when you apply for unemployment, it's retroactive, and so you will put the date that you were unemployed. So if you became unemployed in February, let's say February 1st, you would put the date February 1st, and you will be back paid for that time. So you would get if you're, for example, in Florida, max cap is $275 a week. You get the $275 plus the $600 per week for all the weeks that you were not employed. So, the question is, when is this going to actually go into effect? Well, again, obviously it's in the same bill. The president needs to sign it, and as soon as the president signs it, and they have some administrators in place to be able to function with the amount of people that are claiming unemployment, as soon as that happens, which is supposed to be within 2 weeks, then you'll be receiving unemployment checks if that is what you choose to do, and if that is the best course of action for you. All right, any more questions on unemployment? Because I'm going to go into another fun little part of this bill. Let me know, let me know. All right, so there's now something called recovery rebates. They're called recovery rebates. Keep that phrase in your mind. This is the free money and the checks that are coming from the government to individuals, okay? So and I want to clarify this again. All of this is a tax benefit, is a tax break for individuals or for businesses, okay? So what would usually happen is you would get a credit at the end of the year, you would put that on your taxes, and then you wouldn't have to pay as much in taxes at the end of the year, okay? So the government has decided to give you the tax credit, but also to give you an advance, meaning that you can get this money now. These are recovery rebates. What is that? That is $1,200 per adult, $2,400 if you file a joint return. So if you and your husband file a joint return, then you get $2,400, and you get $500 per child, okay? $2,400 if you file a joint return, $500 per child, and if you're single, you get $1,200, just $1,200, okay? I know there's been a lot of kind of questions, and people are very confused as to whether they're going to receive it or whether they're not going to receive it, whether they qualify. Okay, it's very simple. It's simple, okay? If you made in 2019 less than $75,000 gross, okay, gross, meaning before you took out expenses and all that stuff, if you made less than $75,000 gross in 2019, you will get a check for $1,200, okay? you and your husband made less than $150,000 together in 2019, you will get a check for $2,400. You and your husband, $2,400. Now, if you file as head of household, what does that mean? Okay, that means that, like, I file as head of household, right? Because I have a dependent. So I'm technically a single woman with a child, okay? So it's dependent, okay? From a tax perspective, I'm single, just to be clear. But, so if you file as head of household, then if you made less than $112,500, you will get $1,200 in a check, okay? Now, good question. If you haven't filed your 2019 taxes, no worries. The government's got you back for some unknown reason, but they do in this situation. If you haven't filed your 2019 taxes, they're going to look at your 2018 taxes, because obviously the tax period has been extended to, I think it's June, is it July 1st? It's been extended to July 15th for you to file your 2019 taxes, okay? So if you made less than these amounts in 2018, then you will qualify for this check. If you made more than that, you still get a check. It just gets decreased a little bit. It gets decreased by 5 to 10%. That's it. You still get a check, all right? Everyone's getting a check. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, right? Like, everyone's getting a check, which is freaking awesome. Well, everyone, but you have to be a US citizen. You have to be a resident. It says all non-resident aliens do not qualify. And obviously, you're gonna have to have filed your taxes, because if you haven't filed your taxes, and now you're expecting some money from the government and it's in the form of a tax credit, you're not going to receive that benefit, right? So if you haven't filed your taxes, I would file your taxes for 2018 or 2019 so that you can get this credit, okay? If you will receive money for a child that is claimed on your taxes as your dependent. If they are not claimed on your taxes as your dependent, then you will not receive money for that child. I'm not sure about the age cutoff for kids. I'm presuming it's 18. I know that changes slightly when it comes to kind of college tuitions and things like that for a kid that's up to 20. I'm not quite sure about that. I can definitely get back to you on that. All right. Let's see. So when are we actually going to get this money? Well, the government again says that the first check or the payments will start being received as of April 6th. April 6th. Now, the way that they say it is, if you have set up your bank account, you've set up a direct deposit with the IRS when you were previously filing your taxes, then you are going to receive this money through a direct deposit, okay? If you haven't, they're going to send you a check. That honestly is going to take longer because they've obviously got to process all of these payments. It's going to be a bit kind of crazy, but they will still send you a check. And what you're also going to receive is a letter from the government saying, from the IRS, saying that they have they've sent you this money, okay? Confirming that they've sent you this money. So obviously, if you haven't received it by the time you receive that letter, then you need to follow up with the IRS to make sure you get your money. I believe that anyone with elderly, I believe that anyone that is collecting Social Security will also receive a check. The elderly are also going to receive a check. It's got nothing to do with taxes with them. If they're receiving Social Security, they will receive a check. And the tax benefit, the $500 that would apply to a child, it's not going to apply to other dependents, like an elderly parent, for example. It applies to a child, but the elderly parent will be receiving their own check. Okay. What else? All right, so do we have any questions on recovery rebates? Any other questions regarding your check? Any other questions regarding how much it is, when it's gonna come? You don't have to do anything. The government's going to provide it to you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to call the IRS. All right, so here's a couple of points that I'd just like to bring up because I wanna make sure that everyone is kind of protecting themselves as best that they can, okay? A couple of points. What should you do now? All right, you need to make a decision as to whether to file for unemployment or whether to apply for one of these two loans. That is your decision. Make that decision and be ready so that when the floodgates open, you are first in line. Be ready. And I will be posting more videos and more lives, and I'll let you know when that's happening. So stay tuned. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. And I'm also, by the way, going to be posting this video on my YouTube channel, which is Live Into Life. And there'll be much more videos on there, going even more in depth on the specific items that we've spoken about. Like, for example, how to fill out an application for these specific loans and where to go. So those videos will be there, and I will list my YouTube channel on my Instagram, and so you can find information on that channel. Please understand that there are ways for you to save money right now, like immediately, all right? You can call your mortgage company and ask for a forbearance. You can ask them say, listen, I need 2 months where I'm not paying my mortgage. If they agree to that, there is a potential that the government will pay for that 2 months of your mortgage, okay? It's worth a phone call. You can call your credit card companies and ask them and say to them, listen, I can't make this payment. I don't want to make this payment right now, or I can't make this payment right now. Can you please give me a forbearance of 2 months? They may even waive those payments for you, and the government may pick up those payments for you. This is the third stimulus package, but it's going to continue. There's going to be more stimulus packages. It's going to continue. Potentially, there's going to be more checks being sent out to every individual. It's going to continue, okay? So what you need to do is call your mortgage companies, your credit card companies, even if they will not remove the actual principal payment, they will remove the interest payment. Ask them to stop your interest for at least 2 to 6 months, and then you can pay down any debt quicker than you would usually be able to do. Also, if you have any student loans, automatically your student loans are paused for 6 months. No principal payments, no interest payments, no fees, nothing. My suggestion to you, if you have student loans right now, is to call your student loan company. As I stated, it's automatic, so you don't have to call them to ask them to do this. But I will call them and ask them if there is a way for you to potentially pay off your student loans, if that's a possibility for you, and at a lower rate, at less money, because they're going to be losing a lot of money. So there's a way for for you to get out of that debt quicker. I do have 1 minute remaining on live, so I'm going to wrap up. Also, the last thing is credit protection. It's the greatest time for you to contest anything on your credit report because people are low staffed. And if you contest something on your credit report and you don't receive a response within 30 days, then that item is removed from your credit report. So please be conscious of that. Be conscious of the opportunities that we have during this crazy time. Guys, I have 29 seconds left, so I just want to say this to you. Please subscribe to my Instagram if you haven't already, and check out my YouTube channel, Live Into Life, for more information. If you have any more specific questions, please send me the questions through DM. I would love to answer them. All right, guys, until we meet again, go live your life, live into life, and be blessed. Bye.